Hey, it's your old pal, Tom Gulley here. The Tom Gulley Show. Let me tell you about roller coasters. Why roller coasters, you're asking yourself? Well, admittedly, yesterday's show was a little bit, I won't say dark, but it was just all over the place, and I wasn't happy, and I was very critical of many things, and maybe it could be considered a downer. It was very self-indulgent, 100% correct and righteous, I might add. But so yesterday I said tomorrow's show will be about something fun that everyone loves and is filled with mirth and enjoyment and squeals of delight, and therefore a show about roller coasters. But bringing it back down to earth, I don't really like roller coasters personally, but other people love them, so I don't like heights, and I don't get particularly thrilled having my giblets tossed around at high speed on a rail, and I've seen way too many movies, most of them horror films, where the car comes off the tracks. But by golly, we're going to put a happy face on this. And I'm going to tell you about the beginning of roller coasters, which is really underwhelming. But then I'm going to tell you about the current state of roller coasters, which is kind of amazing and scary, but unnecessary. This, of course, is our cold open. We do this for our audio podcast listeners because when people start playing an audio podcast, they want to know what the topic's about, and they want to know that there's going to be some talk about it and that they're going to hear some neato stuff, and you are. However, this is also a live interactive YouTube program, at least once during the live show, and we need to make some time for people to file into our interactive chat room. And while that's going on, we play rockin' tunes about me and the show that just happen to be, well, good enough to be hits on your local radio station. Now, if you're not into music or you just don't want to listen, that's fine. If you're watching on demand on YouTube or you're listening on demand on our 30 podcast platforms, let's just fast forward through it. Get to the top of the show at the top of the hour, and, then everybody will be happy. Meanwhile, I am going to play these songs, one of which mentions many people that inhabit our chat room. And one is just kind of wild and festive and sort of puts you in the frame of mind that maybe you'd like to go to an amusement park. And after that, let me tell you about roller coasters.
Tom steps in shining, lifting spirits in the room. The wolf's already laughing with that friendly boom. Chef's in the kitchen, keeping everybody fed. Scott from Australia nods his bearded head. Rumpled trench coat enters with a mystery to unfold. Tom brings the warmth, turning every moment gold. Once you go gully, you never recover fully. When the world feels unsteady, Tom will get you ready. Once you go gully, you'll never recover fully. Tom puts on the show, let the good times roll. The wolf keeps up grooving with that easy midnight sway. Chef spins a ladle like when leading cabaret. Australia brings the thunder to the floor. Rumpled trench coat squints like he's seen this all before. Tom hits the rhythm and the whole room starts to move. Every single heartbeat falling deeper in the groove. Once you go gully, you never recover fully. When the world feels unsteady, Tom will get you ready. Once you go gully, you never recover fully. Tom puts on the show, let the good times roll. Oh, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. When the lights turn low, Tom keeps the moment bright, lifting every spirit as they dance into the night. Once you go gully, you never recover fully. When the world feels unsteady, Tom will get you ready. Once you go gully, you never recover fully. Tom puts on the show, let the good times roll. Once you go gully, you never recover fully. When the world feels unsteady, Tom will get you ready. Once you go gully, you never recover fully. Tom puts on the show, let the good times roll. Well, the mic's warm, the clock's past 10. Tom Gulley's here, let the podcast begin. Bigfoot, he's got a map, red string all around. It's not real, says she can't be found. It's a show about spiders, he says, going live. 8 legs, 8 eyes, he got another surprise. Did you see their webs? All the shapes, don't you know? Slater's here for the ride, for the spiders to show. He checks his notes, he knows the audience there. Says he's putting on a show that he just doesn't care. One man, late night, telling tales of things you didn't know and things that never fail. Tom Gulley's Roundup, it's a wild, wild show. Yeah, the whole punch gravy and the Smother Brothers show. He'll pause, break, say what's it to you before the drink sip and the musical cues. Someone calls in, the line crackles low. Tom, do you think you can do an episode about Jesse James? We've been planning this from the start. This one's about spiders, the real shows for the yard. Yeah! Now spiders again, he's got a pick for the show. This one's a camel spider, just watch him go. He doesn't spin webs, he's a fraud, don't you know? But the Black Widow, man, now she's not so slow. Rumble trench coat on speaker, his voice like coffee and gin.
Tom, you missed last night's Columbo, man, it's a sin. Columbo caught a spider inside a net. It had a glass eye, so we kept it as a pet.
Tom leans in and whispers, I think he's right. That spider's not just a pet, it's the truth in the night. The coffee's cold, the comments pile high. Is the wolf about to call? Yeah, there's no reason why. Tom Gulley's Roundup, it's a wild, wild show. Yeah, the whole punch gravy and the Smother Brothers show. He'll pause, break, say what's it to you before the drink sip and the musical cues. Someone calls in, the line crackles low. Tom, do you think you can do an episode about Jesse James? Tom, stop, you've been planning this from the start.
This one's about spiders, the real shows for the art.
Yeah! Now the clock hits the hour, the show's almost done. Tom's got one last thought, says this should be fun. What if we did a show about lava lamps too? Robert Redford, Bob Ross, just to name a few. Christian Slater groans. Tom, you're losing it. Tom grins. Losing it, I'm just getting lit. On the things out there, hiding in plain sight, like cigar smoke and cobwebs furling through the night. Tom Gulley's Roundup, it's a wild, wild show. Yeah, the whole punch gravy and the Smother Brothers show. He'll pause, break, say what's it to you before the drink sip and the musical cues. Someone calls in, the line crackles low. Tom, do you think you can do an episode about Jesse James? Tom, stop, you've been planning this from the start. This one's about spiders, the real shows for the art. Yeah! Yes, Tom's Roundup, man, here we go. Yeah, Gunsmoke, Jello, and Jello, Grayson Jones. He'll pause, break, say what's it to you before the drink sip and the musical cues. Someone calls in, the line crackles low. Tom, do you think you can do an episode about candy smoke? Tom, stop! You've been planning this from the start. This one's about spiders, the real shows for the yard. Yeah! Yeah, it's Tom's Roundup, man, here we go. Yeah, Gunsmoke, Jello, and Generation Joe. He'll pause, break, say what's it to you before the drink sip and the musical cues. Someone calls in, the line crackles low. Tom, do you think you can do an episode about candy smoke? Tom, stop! You've been planning this from the start. This one's about spiders, the real shows for the yard. Yeah!
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot, what's hip, what's happening, what's shaking? Let me tell you about roller coasters. Yeah, woo! Up, down, around. 4 hours waiting in line for 90 seconds of thrills. That's roller coasters to me. I might even tell you a story about my first roller coaster ride. It's horrifying. Hey, do me a favor before we get going too far here. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all those absolutely free things you can do to help us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing algorithm. And we need the help. We really do. Badly. Also, we have the super chats, the memberships, the gifted memberships in our YouTube live chat. And they help us reach our goal every night of any amount of money. Also, you can do the PayPal if you go to our YouTube description. If you go to the TomGulleyShow.com, our merchandise store is there. We have a wide variety of top quality name brand items, sure to thrill and beguile people of all ages. Let's go to our chat room very quickly, see what's up. Guido Samurai says, I hope you mention the horrible wooden roller coaster at Canopy Lake Park, New Hampshire. I just did, and that's all I know about it. Although I'm sure there are a number of horrible wooden roller coasters across this great, big, beautiful land of ours. The chef is in the house. He says, Neil, Cooper, and myself are in the kitchen there at Geraldine's Supper Club and Lounge. Beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana, Fountain Square, just off English Avenue. Hope you guys are having a good evening. And it's Tuesday. That could mean it's oyster night. Not sure. Terry Nee is here. He says, I worked at a local amusement park at 14. We would test the ride, the coaster, in the morning. That had to be fun. Perks. It's all about the perks. He said we'd stand up, which, of course, is not allowed when the patrons come there. I might do a show coming up, which I think would be fun, in a morbid way, because in researching this show, I found a ton of pages about roller coaster and amusement park accidents. Horrifying accidents, as a matter of fact. Guido Samurai says, I also hate heights. Yes. Terry Nee, of course, is here. Says, Team Gulley. Tom's a nice young man. Yes, never forget, Terry Nee is older than I am. Rebel with a Cause says it's over. No, we're just getting started, my man. He says, I love the Gulley Show. Terry Nee says, I bought an old school lava lamp with box for $170. My wife said no, and she wasn't even there. That's a lot of money for a lava lamp with a box, man. I think you can get them much cheaper than that. Guido says, at least you only have one wife, Terry. Rebel with the Cause, Rebel Yell at King's Dominion. You know what? I might have that one. I think I do have it. I have at least a King's Island, a couple of King's Islands. Rebel with the Cause says, wooden coasters are the greatest. Oh, yes, you can hear them creak. They look like they'd go up with one match before you get on them. That's great. Leon Kennedy, our musical director, here says, Terry, why on earth does a lava lamp cost $170 full of gold? And Terry says vintage, 1970s. Those lava lamps are actually made with a different substance than the new ones. Rebel Without a Cause says, coaster deaths are my favorite. I think they're everybody's favorite, really. Leon Kennedy says, for April Fools, I should make a Terry Nee show song. Well, you'd have the fool part down. And while we're on the topic, we might as well do it. They made a song for it, and we don't often get to play the song because Terry Nee is very fickle. He goes off to his real friends and watches their shows quite frequently. But we do have a Terry Nee song. It, like Terry Nee, doesn't last long. Sorry, I had to. And here it is. And it's very much about Terry Nee.
Sits in the chat like he paid a fee. Shades indoors, who can he see? Acts a name, he points at me like, come on now, I'm Terry Nee. Head full funk, 0 degree. Smooth brain, confidence, guilt-free. You ask again, he shrugs carefree. Buddy, I'm Terry Nee, he's Terry Nee. Who's Terry Nee? He's Terry Nee. Who's Terry Nee? Say it once, say it twice with me. That's the whole damn song. Terry Nee.
All right, enough of that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a frequent person in our chat room and you make a spectacle of yourself, who knows, Leon Kennedy might write a song about you. Unlikely. And every time I play the Terry Nee song, my buffering just goes to hell in a handbasket. Coincidence? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. Let's see here. Leon Kennedy says some guy died by heating up a lava lamp on a stove. I remember that. Terry Nee says, you've been talking to my wife? Leon Kennedy says it was a guy. Because of Leon, Terry Nee has donated $2, which is $1.01 more than his normal donation. Terry Nee said, cursed song. Oh, see, now that I'm done playing the song, we're back up to our normal buffering rate. I'm telling you, that song is cursed, like Leon says. All right, let's talk about roller coasters, shall we? You know what a roller coaster is, right? This one here is from the Great Scenic Railway at Luna Park, Melbourne, Australia. I don't like to put things about Australia on this program, but occasionally it happens. Roller coaster's a type of amusement park ride on an elevated railroad track carrying passengers through tight turns, steep slopes, and other elements. They're designed to produce a thrilling experience, although there are what they call kiddie coasters, and those are designed to just be a mild nothing, you know. Trains have open cars connected in a single line, and they're a complete circuit. They're like a circle. You depart and leave from the same loading area. This is pretty much, you know, standard. The earliest things that could ever be called a modern roller coaster were kind of embarrassing, if you ask me. They were called Russian mountains. A lot of them were in Russia, not the Soviet Union. This was the 17th century. But a guy named Lamarcus Adna Thompson obtained one of the first known patents for a track-based roller coaster design in 1885, and it was based on the Switchback Railway, which operated at Coney Island. Yes, Coney Island. That's a fun place. But this was way back when, and it doesn't look that great to me, but what do I know? Today, most roller coasters are built out of steel, which can allow for way more intense forces and inversions where the riders are upside down. But the oldest coasters, those old coasters, they were the Russian roller coasters, known as the Russian Mountains. And they were located in hills of ice that were located in what's now St. Petersburg, Russia. This is a photo of long before St. Petersburg, Russia. And they weren't really much. 17th century, built to about 70 or 80 feet high, had a 50-degree drop, and they were reinforced by wooden supports. Later, in 1784, Catherine the Great, who was a freaky chick, do some research. She is said to have constructed a sledding hill in the gardens of her palace in St. Petersburg. So, what they called the Riding Mountain, Le Grand Glissade, entertainment pavilion designed by Bartolomeo Francesco Rastrelli for the royal residence, was built in 1754. In Russian, it was known as, literally, Mountain for Riding. Yes. Katalnaya Gora. It was a huge building in the shape of a rotunda. It had a trail with 5 hills, which could be covered with ice in winter. In the summertime, the trails used trolleys and wheels on grooves in the wooden trails. The ride was engineered by Russian scientist Audrey Nartov. Two forms of early roller coaster were built in France in 1817. Yes. Les Montagnais de Belleville in Belleville, Paris, had wheels attached to carriages and locked on tracks. A very important development in roller coasters. And as you can see, you started way up high. It was almost like one of those things at the amusement park where you walk up several stories and then they put you on a rug and it's just a big slide. Yeah, it was like that, only at the other end of it, you went up with the inertia to the other side. It's a big, giant U shape. So again, the French have underwhelmed us with the roller coaster after underwhelming us with their ability to fight in World War II. But then another one was called Les Promenades Aériennes, and it opened in Parc Béjon in Paris on July 8th, 1817. It had wheeled cars securely locked into the track, and there were even guide rails to keep them on course and higher speed. It had a bunch of imitators, but those imitators were very quickly out of business. They weren't nearly as popular, as this one. Yes. Not nearly as popular. No. Then we get to the next kind of wave of roller coasters, and some of these were in the United States, some in Pennsylvania, where Terry Nee lives, or went to school, sorry. I don't know where he lives, actually. I just know he went to Pennsylvania State University. But in 1827, and this is so weird to me, maybe just because we're modern people, but it was not uncommon back then. The mining business, apparently not as high profit as I was once led to believe, because a mining company started this thing called the Mauk Chunk Switchback Railway. And it was a downhill gravity railroad used to deliver coal to Mauch Chunk, Pennsylvania, now known as Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, because the people in that town, well, they just couldn't settle for one stupid, weird name for their town, so they had to have two. By the 1850s, the Gravity Road, as it became known, was selling rides to thrill seekers. And railway companies used similar tracks to provide amusement on days when the ridership was low. So it was like, hey, why don't we just use the railroad and or coal mining thing we've got here to scare the living bejesus out of people? And that's when, using this idea as a basis, that Lamarcus Thompson guy began work on a gravity switchback railway that opened in 1884 at Coney Island in Brooklyn, New York. Passengers would climb to the top of this platform, and the car was like a bench, and it went down a 600-foot track, which is like 2 football fields length. It's not that far, up to the top of another tower, where the vehicle was switched to a return track, and you took the trip back to where you started. They soon figured, why don't we just make this a big oval? Yeah. A year later, some Sharpie named Philip Hinkle introduced the first full-circuit coaster with a lift hill called the Gravity Pleasure Road, which is also the name of an adult film. And it became the most popular attraction at Coney Island. But this Lamarcus Thompson guy, he was like, not so fast. So he went and patented his design of roller coaster that included dark tunnels and painted scenery. And scenic railways, that's what roller coasters were known as before they became known as roller coasters, a scenic railway. Well, by 1919, the first under-friction roller coaster had been developed by John Miller. And what that means is it's a roller coaster that has the wheels locked on to the tracks. And over the next decade, roller coasters spread like wildfire, all not just in the U.S., but all over the world. And that's what people that follow roller coasters call the Golden Age. One of the most famous was called the Cyclone. The Cyclone roller coaster. Oh, yes. It opened at Coney Island in 1927. Oh, by the way, this is one called Mount Pisgah. Look at how crappy this one is. It's just a hill with a track on it, audio podcast listeners. And it was probably used to transport lumber or something, but it's just woeful looking. I don't care if it was the 1800s. Anyway, this golden age of roller coasters that everybody was losing their shorts over, it came to a close. It really was hurt by this thing called the Great Depression. People didn't have a penny to throw away on a ride that lasted 17 seconds, so not as many roller coasters were being made. And there you go. In May of 1932, though, the scenic railway got kind of a big boost over in the UK with the opening of the roller coaster at Great Yarmouth. And today it's the only scenic railway still in operation in the United Kingdom. Look at that thing. That's a scenic railway if I've ever seen one. And I like how they've got printed on the side, roller coaster, just in case you thought it was something else. That's ridiculous. What's our chat room saying? I'm seeing a lot of activity in the chat room with all of the Weisenheimers. A lot of Weisenheimers. Leon Kennedy says, I'm too tall to fit in roller coasters. Me too. I'm 6'5". Terry Nee says, me too. Rebel with the Cause says, thought so. Terry Nee says, wood roller coasters have the best feel. You know what the best feel of a roller coaster is when you get off of it. Rebel with the Cause says, yes, if it doesn't feel like I'll die, I won't ride. Well, that's kind of part of the fun, I guess. Guido Samurai says, wait, they weren't locked before? No, they weren't locked before. But in fairness, they weren't going at any speeds that would require them to be locked. Leon Kennedy says, I went on a roller coaster at Alton Towers. I was too tall to ride, but I squeezed in anyway. My head touched the damn ceiling at one point. Not kidding. Terry says, Harrisburg area, Maw Chunk. It's pronounced Maw Chunk. Oh, I'm sorry. Terry says, Maw Chunk, Pennsylvania, founded in 1818, was a premier 19th century industrial town and tourist destination known as the Switzerland of America. And it was so incredibly Switzerlandy that they changed the name to Jim Thorpe, famous Indian Olympic and pro athlete. Name change. Following the decline of the coal industry, the town merged with East Maw Chunk in 1954 and renamed itself in name of the famous athlete Jim Thorpe, who is buried there. Wow. In 1959, Disneyland introduced a design breakthrough. People couldn't believe it. Oh, yes. There we go. Yeah, Disneyland with Matterhorn bobsleds, the first permanent roller coaster to use a tubular steel track. You see these all the time now. That tube track was unlike the other ones on the wooden coasters, allowing the track to bend in sharper angles in any direction. And they could use loops and corkscrews and inversion elements. That's the big loop where you go upside down, sometimes while twisting. Yes. Yes. And a little more, there's the Matterhorn also at Disney. And their coaster was kind of unique, as they built a fake papier-mâché mountain to make you feel like you were on the Matterhorn. And the worst thing about the Matterhorn, I can easily say, was the fake Yeti that you had to travel past. They've updated the fake Yeti. And believe it or not, sorry, audio podcast listeners, I'm including a photo of this Yeti because the new Yeti looks worse. But that's what they did at Disneyland. And it's Disneyland, so it's cool. A little more than a decade later, the immediate success at Kings Island, Ohio, of a roller coaster called the Racer. There was the red Racer and the blue Racer. They had two next to each other, and they would split off after the drop in opposite directions. Basically the same roller coaster, just two different directions. And the Racer was hugely successful. I rode the Racer many times, and led to a resurgence across the amusement park industry over the next several decades. And I can tell you that the Racer got to a point, because they had built so many newer, crazier roller coasters at Kings Island. One of them was called the Bigfoot. It was crazy. It was all wood as well. I remember standing for 3 hours to get a ride on the Bigfoot ride. And after that, you could just walk up to the Racer. It was old news by then, although it was still a really crazy good roller coaster. But they got to a point where, like, the red Racer went forward and the blue Racer went backwards. And you could take either one that you want. In 1989, Cedar Point, and I'd like to point out that I believe Cedar Point is like a roller coaster mecca. Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, I think it's in Sandusky, Ohio. Somewhere, might be Cedar Point, Ohio or whatever, but they always have like the newest, greatest roller coaster. And in 1989, they introduced the Magnum XL 200, which was the first of what was called a hyper coaster. And this was the start of what was called the roller coaster war, that would push the limits of what a roller coaster could be. In a second, I'll tell you what the difference between all the hyper coasters and all that is. But this roller coaster war, here's the Magnum XL Red Train. Here's the Magnum XL at night. So it had a gigantic lift. That's the thing that you go up to the top. And then you drop like a shot on this one. I mean, it's a severe drop, as you can tell just by looking at it. But this roller coaster war lasted into the early 2000s. Yes, the early 2000s, with like really iconic roller coasters like this one called the Millennium Force, which is almost a sheer drop. It's almost a complete just drop off. Another one called the Top Thrill Dragster. And the Top Thrill Dragster began like these roller coasters that took you to the top and then just dropped you straight down. Like you're just driving straight toward the ground so you can soil yourself or whatever. And then you would go through a bunch of roller coaster stuff after they straightened you out. But the Top Thrill Dragster. And this is actually the Top Thrill Dragster 2. They actually improved upon it. By the way, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. We need those likes. They only cost you a click. Clicks don't cost nothing. Little something for the effort. Come on, help a fella out. Anyway, another one that was part of these roller coaster wars was called the King Ka. And look at that sucker. You eventually go straight up and then you go straight down. The King Ka. There's the King Ka Tower, the tower being the highest point. The end of the so-called roller coaster wars was marked by the King Ka, as no park wanted to invest the amount of money needed to surpass the 465-foot height of this ride. Nobody wants any of that. Nobody wants that. Here's another roller coaster I'll get to in a second, but you might wonder, oh, let's look at the chat room real fast. There's a lot of chat room activity. Terry Nee says, I'm a contributor now. Terry, you have always been a contributor of something. Leon Kennedy says, Bigfoot ride. And Tom Gulley says, Bigfoot isn't real. Hypocrisy. Well, the ride is. The creature isn't. By the way, I've noticed a lot of videos on YouTube in the last couple of weeks that insist AI has proven that Bigfoot is real. It's like, prove me that AI is real first. Terry Nee for co-host. No, there'll be no co-hosts on this program. There'll be guests. There may even be a guest host, but there'll be no. Ryan Paradisus says, Tom Gulley, you're afraid of rides. I am afraid of amusement park rides. Yes, you're correct. The Wolf is here. Ryan says, you scared to go on coasters? Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big risk-reward person. What am I getting out of having my giblets tossed around? Not that much. And when I do the show on amusement park fatalities and disasters, you'll see why I'm just not interested. Terry Nee says, Leon is brilliant. Leon really is brilliant. Rebel with the Cause says, the Skyline thing, the Sky Ride was awesome. You could spit on top of people. I was a child. Don't get mad. Why shouldn't I get mad? Spit is spit. I don't care where it comes from. That's why I don't walk underneath the Sky Ride. I, by the way, not scared of the Sky Ride, strangely enough. Ryan Paradisus says, I'll like it, you Frankenstein. Thank you. Thank you. People saying hi. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, as verified by independent sources. Leon Kennedy says, I don't like them. Not scared. I just really don't like being cramped into a small metal cart and queuing for 4 hours. That's right. They call those steel roller coasters, says Terry Nee. Yeah, they are. They're steel, Terry. Good call. Rebel with a Call says that ride decapitated someone at King's Dominion. Well, many of the rides have and done worse than that. And some of the rides that aren't even roller coasters have cut people's feet off and terrible, terrible thing. Ryan says, what? I was joking. That's okay. Tom Gulley is a real radio guy. No co-host. Well, no, real radio guys do have co-hosts. Although I was on a show with like 5 guys and we were all hosts. There was nobody wanted to be sports show. But Ryan Paradisa says, I just like the word giblets. Me too. That's why I threw that in there. So there's several explanations for the term roller coaster. It is thought to have originated from early American designs where slides or ramps were fitted with rollers. And so that was the roller part. And then you would coast over a section of track. Now, they stopped that. They basically fitted the wheels to the sled or to the other vehicles, but this particular one had a deal where there was just rollers on it and you coasted over them. Another explanation, I guess you'd call it, is that there was a ride in a roller skating rink in Haverhill, Massachusetts. A toboggan-like sled ride was raised to the top of a track, and this track had hundreds and hundreds of rollers on it, and this roller toboggan took off and they just rolled. And the people that did this insist they were the first to use the term roller coaster. The term jet coaster is used for roller coasters in Japan, where the rides are very popular. In many languages, including most of the Romance languages, the name refers to Russian mountains. And in Scandinavian, it's called a mountain and valley railway. The Germans have the word Achterbahn, stemming from figure 8-bahn. This is similar to the Dutch Achterbahn, which also means 8. Roller coasters are not typically powered. You know, they don't have an engine. None of that. They're pulled up a hill by a chain or a cable, and then they're released. And the energy accumulated from that drop after it's risen so far is converted back into energy as it goes in the circles and changes in elevation, becomes smaller throughout the course. A lot of energy gets used in tight curves and things like that, and energy is lost through friction and air drag. A properly designed outdoor track means that the train has enough kinetic energy to complete the whole course and not stop anywhere. There's launch systems, don't get me wrong. When you get to the top, there's a number of launch systems. Oh, and then there's some that launch you from the ground straight up. There's a thing at the end, and you guys are all familiar with this, when you get to the end of a roller coaster and you're decelerated in like stages, right? Stages of deceleration. That's known as a brake run. Okay? That's to keep you from crashing. Back at the loading area. The loading area. Let me see here. Terry says, you might say I'm a modern Paul Harvey. I think if either of us would be the modern Paul Harvey, it would be me. I mean, I could end every one of these shows with, and now you know the rest of the story. Page 2. The Wolf says the Gringo Giant isn't afraid of a 380 spin in a snow sled. That's tremendous fun. Well, a snow sled, you mean your car? So the Wolf gets his nose broken. I won't go into that story because it's too long to tell, but he gets all shot up with drugs at the hospital. I volunteer to go get him. I get him. Now, he had driven there, so now he's whacked out on goofballs, and I got to drive him home. And it's icy Indiana weather. And we're coming to this four-way stop, and I'm applying the brakes, but the car is not stopping through the four-way stop. And now I'm out in the middle of the intersection, and I pulled like it would be a 270 spin and turned left like we were supposed to, and he never let me forget it. The wolf says, Tom calls them kiss my ass goodbye. Darren says, good drugs then. I have to assume so. You'd have to ask the wolf. Ryan Paradisa says, no Gulley is like Anthony Cumia or Bubba the Love Sponge. I don't know. I don't know what I'm like. Part Ted Koppel, part Larry King, part Art Bell. I don't know what the hell I am. Anthony Cumia Gulley, Ryan? I don't think so. Roller coasters are statistically very safe when compared to other activities, but accidents do occur. And if anybody learns anything from listening to this show, it's that no matter what subject you're talking about on Earth, like if you're talking about left nostril nose inhalers with the state motto on it, that there is an association of left nostril nose inhalers with the state motto on it. The International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions reports that a rider has a 1 chance in 15 million of being injured on a ride. In a typical year, more than 380 million guests will enjoy in excess of 1.7 billion rides at approximately 400 North American fixed site facilities. And by the way, they make it really obvious. They make it a point. That's fixed facilities. These carnies, we don't want anything to do with them because your chances of getting hurt on one of those are 1 in 1. Now, for those of you who are into restraints, and I know we have some. Oh, by the way, this is the Kingdom Coaster. This is what they call a kiddie coaster. Okay? It doesn't get taller than 10 feet or something. It's for kids. And by the way, in some amusement parks, the kiddie coaster is like a scaled down representation of their scary coaster. So this is the Nitro coaster. Just look at that thing. Just looking at it, I'm not going on it. And this one's called Falcon's Flight for some reason. I don't know. But the restraints, there's an over-the-shoulder restraint. And that secures your torso in a harness that's pulled over you beforehand. And you always test it to make sure it's actually in the locked position. Yeah, that one. There's another thing, and I don't trust these ones at all. It's called a lap bar. You know that bar? You get in and the bar's in front of you and it just pulls down across your lap? No, thank you. That particular restraint is actually for a reason. And it's so that when you're flying around, you get more of what's called air time, where you're floating in air above the seat. There's another one that's a vest, that you actually do put kind of a vest on it, okay? And that's less bulky than the over-the-shoulder, but in my mind, it's less secure. There's another one called the seat belt. It's exactly what you would think it is. And there's different methodologies to lock in your behind in the roller coaster. There's a hydraulic, just use hydraulic pistons and stuff to lock you in. And then there's one called a ratcheting one that's with a gear where you can actually hear the tick, 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 tick when they lock you in. And it won't go in the opposite direction until they electronically release it. You got to know a lot of physics to be a roller coaster designer, by the way. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot of comments here. Brian says, Larry King rules. Always check and make sure there's not certain days at the park. Terry Nee says, Walker Cronkite. Yes, I could end all of these shows with, and that's the way it is. Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. And that's the way it is. Love me some Walker crying out. Oh, and the Wolf insults me by saying part Mike Guido. Mike Guido, the worst sportscaster in the history. Thankfully, no longer on the mighty 190 out of San Diego. Terry Nee says, Tom is more of a Herbert Morrison. He'll know. Nah, I don't know about that. Ryan Paradisa says, no, like 78% of carnival death. Terry Nee says, seatbelt coaster was the best. Leon Kennedy says, yeah, the lap bar is ridiculous. I have to bend my legs to one side to fit it under. Yeah. Ryan says, did Apollo's Chariot Busch Gardens 250-foot drop? Never again for me. 116 pounds, my body almost passed out. Then I had pains in my chest. Terry Nee says, same, Leon, 6'3". 6'3", that's nothing. Ryan Paradisa says, when you're doing big drops and flips, you can't use a regular seatbelt. No, you cannot. Wolf says, I love the fake roller coaster in the basement of the Camelot in Las Vegas. Strapped into a seat controlled by hydraulics while watch a giant screen first-person view of a ride. I sit next. Yeah, that's kind of a new kind of ride they do. It's on a tiny roller coaster, but there's a screen in front of you that has these graphics that make you think you're twisting and turning. Chris Berman was the worst, says Terry Nee. No, Mike Guido, way worse. Race driver screaming in terror. There's a ride at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal in Orlando that actually does, it's kind of amazing the psychological trick it plays on you, because the roller coaster itself is, it can't be more than 10, 15 feet at its highest point, but it is so secure to the track that it will make you go sideways 90 degrees or drop you forward and do things like that. And that screen in front of you makes you play Quidditch and do all sorts of stuff and fight spiders and whatnot. It's actually a pretty cool ride. Anyway, roller coaster design is another big thing. It requires a working knowledge of physics, because you want people freaked out, but you don't want them in pain. Then the designers have to analyze all that, and there's a tolerance that they have to adhere to. The human body actually needs time to react to these sudden changes in speed and angle and all that. So you can't just design this crazy, wild thing. It'd be over too fast. You need time for people to react so that the terror is greater. Otherwise, their brain doesn't process it. The designers, and you also can't give them whiplash and stuff, but the designers stay in the range of 4 to 6 Gs, as well as a maximum positive G-force. I got a thing in my eye here that's just got to go. Acceleration. So you can't get to 4 to 6 Gs too quickly. Too many G's can cause people to lose consciousness. And negative G-force, which is sort of the slowdown after you get going fast, which gives you the sensation of being weightless and creates that air time they talk about. The target for that is 1.5 to 2 Gs. And that's considered safe for most of the population. Not considered safe to that that physical wreck that sometimes, you ever been to the amusement park and you're with a group and there's an odd number of people in the group and you all go on the roller coaster and one person has to sit with somebody that's not in your group. Then it's that person that shows up late and they're breathing through their mouth and they got pit stains and you're like, you're not going to last through this ride. Wheels are critical. You know, most of the wheels are made of polyurethane. There's road wheels, which are kind of what they sound like. There's side friction wheels. And then there's upstop wheels that ride on the top of the steel tube. Road wheels ride on the top of the track. Side friction wheels are on the side of the track. Upstop or below the track, and prevent the train from lifting off of the track. Naturally, you know, you have to be careful of head trauma and tearing of your labrum and things of that name. So roller coasters, as Terry Nee pointed out, there's steel coasters and then there's wooden coasters. Steel ones have tubular tracks. Wooden coasters have flat steel tracks. There's new kinds of tracks that are, you know, space age, but we don't want to talk about that. There's a third classification called a hybrid roller coaster, which is a mixture of wood and steel elements. So like the roller coaster will be made out of wood except for the tracks, which will be steel. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. One of the best examples is that Cyclone that I showed you. Another would be the new Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas, which is a giant roller coaster. It used to all be made out of wood, but now it does have the steel tracks. And that one is one when you drive by the Six Flags of Texas, it looks like it would go up with a match. The wood looks so old, I will never. Modern roller coasters, now one of the big things is the position of the riders. Where are you? Traditionally, you're sitting, you're facing forward, but now they have stand-up roller coasters where you're standing. And a lot of those, you are standing and you're almost hanging. And I messed up my back really bad one time at Busch Gardens, I think it was, on one of those. Another one is called the flying models. And in those, you are prone. You are like Superman. It's like you are flying. Yes. And there's floorless roller coasters where you're just cranking along and there's no floor in the roller coaster. Some of the standing ones are that. You don't have a floor. You're harnessed in and you're hanging. And you're in kind of a seat. It's like an abbreviated seat. A shuttle roller coaster reverses during the ride. So there you go. Okay, so the height is what classifies the roller coaster as well. And I'll get to that in a second. And it's really interesting. You're going to want to stay tuned for this. I want to hear your roller coaster story. We got some good roller coaster stories, but I want to hear some more roller coaster stories. I'll tell a quick one. Every guy on earth at some point in time has had the good fortune to go out with a girl that's probably out of his league in the looks department. Now, maybe through charm and your station in life, you've beguiled her into being into you, you know? But it's that girl that's kind of crazy and will do kind of crazy things. Well, when we went to Busch Gardens, I had screwed my back up so bad on this Superman ride or whatever it was. And there was the roller coaster that you could see on the approach to Busch Gardens. Like you could see it 20 miles away. You could see this really tall one. And I just didn't want to go on it because my back was killing me. And that crazy girl never looked at me the same way again. There's a humiliating roller coaster story. Never quite looked at me the same way again. Let's see here. Terry Nee says Body Wars at Disney World was scary. Ryan said, I had a Wildwood roller coaster with head clamp over in between your head. Banged my skull like 20 times on the padding. He says, so I've had a lot of painful experiences at parks that you helped me remember. Well, you're welcome. Terry Nee says, Kenny G's was awesome. Stop it. That's the worst kind of G to experience is Kenny G. The Wolf says, it was easily the best fun other than motocross. The fact that our race car driver was terrified made it even better. Plus, there was a small child laughing at him for being scared. Terry Nee said Steel Wheels was the best. You mean the Rolling Stones tour of 1987? Or 8, I think. I don't know. Several classifications are used by the parks and the manufacturers. Incidentally, a lot of these roller coasters are manufactured in like Germany and Austria and Switzerland, very precise physics and things. And the cost of these roller coasters is astronomical. They're going to make their money back, but they're not cheap. Anyway, the first classification is called the kiddie coaster or the family coaster, right? Right? That's pretty, right? I mean, the kiddie coaster. That's for younger users. Following World War II, parks began pushing for more of them to be built so that young people could, Companies like the Philadelphia Toboggan Company developed scaled-down versions of their larger models to accommodate demand. They're smaller. The lift hills, the tallest they get, and this is how they classify them, is the tallest, the lift hill, that big hill at the beginning. The kiddie coasters, the lift hill is smaller than 25 feet. And then there's a slightly more, it's called a junior model that's 45 feet, but there's not that many of those. Now, there's a thing called a hyper coaster that I mentioned earlier. And those have a height or drop of at least 200 feet. Yes. Hypercoasters are the big ones at all the parks now. They're very pervasive. But there's another thing called the Giga Coaster. That's right. And the Millennium Force was a Giga Coaster. And that's got to be at least 300 feet. Now, here's your highest coasters. Okay. There's the Millennium Force in Cedar Point, 300 feet. There's the Steel Dragon 2000 in Nagashima that's 306 feet. And then there's, and by the way, it's 306.8. So there's one that's, and these are out of order, by the way. I think maybe let's see if I can put them in order. Can I put them in order on this chart? Nope, not going to let me. There's the Pantherian at King's Dominion, that's 300 feet. The Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland, 306 feet. The Fury 325 at Carowinds, 320 feet. The Orion at Kings Island, 300 feet. Then there's a thing called a strata coaster. And that has a height or a drop of at least 400 feet. Yes, and that's another Cedar Point thing, man. These Cedar Point things are crazy. They're absolutely crazy. And that's the Top Thrill and the King Ka. The King Ka. The Top Thrill 2 is 420 feet. And the King Ka is 456 feet. Then the biggest one of them all is called an Exa coaster. That has a drop or a height of at least 600 feet. And that, there's only one, and it's the Falcon's Flight, 640 feet, opened at Six Flags, Kittia City, December of 2025. It's not that old. became the tallest, fastest, longest coaster in the world, surpassing the previous records once held by the Top Thrill 2, the Formula Rossa, and the Steel Dragon 2000. I could tell you the names of many major roller coaster manufacturers, but you wouldn't want to hear them. Gerstlauer, Mauer AG, Schwarzkopf, Zamperla, Zierer, a lot of Germans in there. A lot of it Germans. You would need pervertine to ride the ride, or you would not make it through. That, ladies and gentlemen, is really all I have to tell you about roller coasters. And it's far more than you wanted to know. It really, really is. And I've got huge buffering problems at present. They just cured up. We'll see if they persist. So I can put my face on screen with the light coming through the blinds. That's great. That's just great. Let's see here. Terry Nee says he's just kidding, as always. Wait, is there a possibility these rides have been constructed by chocolate lovers? After having a delicious, refreshing chocolate, those workers could get a real burst. Yes, sippervatine. Okay, now we're buffering again. Now we're down to nothing again. I don't know what is causing that recently, but it's happening, and I'm none too happy about it. So I'll just put a picture of a roller coaster up. Ha ha ha. Think of the quality of the Pervitine. Hershey Park has great coasters. I'm nearby. Hershey Park, yeah, that'd be a lot of chocolate there. Leon Kennedy says, yes, we did. Bigfoot mentioned, spiders mentioned, Pervitine mentioned. We did it. We checked all the boxes. Terry Nee says, you should probably play the Terry Nee song to make things better. Do you really want to hear the Terry Nee song again? I don't mind playing it again. I mean, it's nothing to me to play the Terry Nee song. I play songs all the time on this show. Leon Kennedy has made them available. Therefore, I will play them. And with that being said, once again, if you beguile and harass the host of the show in the chat room frequently enough, maybe Leon Kennedy will write a song about you. I played a song at the opening of the show that mentions a whole bunch of the people that are in the chat room.
Sits in the chat like he paid a fee. Shades indoors, who can he see? Acts the name, he points at me like, come on now, I'm Terry Nee. Head full funk, 0 degree. Smooth brain, confidence, guilt-free. You ask again, he shrugs carefree. Buddy, I'm Terry Nee, he's Terry Nee. Who's Terry Nee? He's Terry Nee. Who's Terry Nee? Say it once, say it twice with me. That's the whole damn song. Terry Nee.
Yeah, whatever. All right, let's see here. Playing the Terry Nee song is important to society, according to Terry Nee. Rebel Without a Cause says, the only radio guy on YouTube. Well, thank you. Thank you. Let's all get down, get funky. Tomorrow, I don't know what the show is going to be about. I'm in the middle of moving. I have a bunch of stuff that's going on this week. I'll pick something out tonight. It'll be awesome. Trust me, it'll be a great topic that you'll love more than a friend. And then but I do know Saturday will be about the Green Hornet, and Sunday will be the Big Valley. So that's what we're doing on the weekend. But as far as tomorrow and Thursday, I got no clue. I know one of the things will be to block that sun. That's crazy bright in my face. It's all up in my face. It's all up in my face, in my business. Let's see here. What's a great song to play on the ending of the show? I don't know. I just like this song a lot. I like all of them a lot. It's hard to pick. It's really difficult to pick. You can thank Leon Kennedy for that, by the way. You can go to the Leon Kennedy SoundCloud Gulley Core page if you'd like to get the full assortment of this stuff. You can get it. The Wolf says, I was waiting for you to lower your face to the bar of light would be across your eyes, giving you a sinister look. Well, there you go. I can be like Dracula. Remember the first Dracula movie? Children of the night, they make such sweet music. I do not drink wine. Terry says, I spent a year getting Pat Dixon to play Moonlight in Vermont. I know what people like. If they don't, they will. Terry says, sun in the eyes. Love seeing Tom's beautiful eyes. You know, Dabbleverse-wise, I give Pat a pass because there is a person or two in the Dabbleverse that he has a legitimate personal beef with. So I give you a pass for that. But there's just a couple people, one in particular recently, I'm so disappointed that they've gone back hip deep into the Dabbleverse. It's just so, the Dabbleverse is so unnecessary. Rebel with the Cause says, so beautiful. Warfield says, Count Alucard. If you pay really close attention, you'll figure out what Count Alucard means, especially in terms of avoiding Universal Studios copyright on the word Dracula. Anyway, we'll see what tomorrow's show brings, but that's all I got for today. I'm looking at that old clock on the wall, and it says it's time for me to amscray. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. No. And with all that being said, the only thing left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next time.
Used to spin the records on the radio dial. Now I'm on the screen with my YouTube style. Keeping it real, baby, that's alright. We're swinging through the topics every single night. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Nothing special, nothing grand, but that's the show you understand. From the mic to the camera, hear me shout. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Got opinions, got stories, got a thing or two to say. Pour a drink, settle in, we're doing it our way. From the headlines to the punchlines, we cover all the ground. Tom Gulley is in the house, and we're laying it down. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Nothing special, nothing grand, but that's the show you understand. From the mic to the camera, hear me shout. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. To the digital scene, still the sharpest talker that you've ever seen. We keep it real, we keep it sharp, we keep it true. For radio days or YouTube nights, we're breaking through. With a late night broadcast or the earlier show, we're talking about